All right. And it is 2 o'clock. I'm wondering if we have a quorum.
We have 8 board members present, so we do have a quorum.
Perfect. With that being said, we'll call this meeting to order. Could I ask my vice chair to lead us on the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Sure, if we can all please join together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for everyone helping and collaborating.
Thank you. I don't know if you heard me, but I was there with you. All right. We'll move along to roll call. Candace, would you mind doing roll call, please?
Sure. Director Kinjo.
Here, please.
Okay. Cantu,
Here.
Albert, Hernandez,
Present.
Hudson,
Here.
Kick, King Tingle,
Here.
McPartland, Neram,
Here.
Rickman,
Here.
Stepper,
Here.
Vargas,
Here.
Warner,
Here.
Wright,
Present.
Zuba.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Candace. And before we go to public comments, I want to remind the members of the public that may address the board on issues not listed on the agenda. That this are within the purview of the authority. Comments on matters that are not listed on the agenda may be made on the time for the board's consideration, each item. The time is limited to public comments for 3 minutes. Let's open, and I believe we have some raised hands already. April Quintalia and Adrian Brown. So let's start with April.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Hi, my name is April and I'm the acting district secretary at Bart. I have Director McPartland. He is trying to get into the Zoom meeting here, and the passcode for whatever reason isn't working. So would you be able to send him another panelist link or assist with getting his admission as a panelist into the meeting, please?
Hi,
Sure
can I
can.
take that?
Candace can help you out with that.
Can you let him join as a member of the public and I will bring him over?
Sure thing. Yes, I will let him know right now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All righty. Thank you, April. Let's move to Adrian Brandt. Adrian, you have the floor and you have 3 minutes.
Can you hear us, Adrian?
Okay. Thank you. I was waiting for the unmute. It didn't come right away. Yeah, I wanted to thank yourself and your directors for asking staff to follow up with me at the last meeting regarding some comments I made about the advisability of, committing yourselves to a hydrogen-based propulsion system at this stage of the ongoing hydrogen versus battery versus electrification technology race, if you will. Every day there are new developments on all sides, and my basic point is just I guess I'd make a comparison. Back in the early days of the video recorder, many of you might remember, some of you might not be old enough to remember, but there was 2 competing formats, VHS and beta. And it's, nobody really knew which one was going to win out. And it turns out VHS won out, and people with Betamax recorders wound up with maybe regretting having invested so much of their money and time in acquiring and building that equipment. And so too, I think, is the risk with committing yourselves fully to hydrogen at this early stage. Hydrogen, again, just to reemphasize, is not an energy source. It is everywhere, it's plentiful, but it is an energy storage medium, just like a battery. And it's very important to keep that in mind. Hydrogen is not an energy source. It is an energy storage medium. It takes a lot of electrical energy to make hydrogen, pure hydrogen, for use in a fuel cell. And that process, the amount of energy it takes, about 25%, according to many studies I've shared with your staff in response to their email to me, about 25 to 30% is what actually makes it to propelling the vehicle, whether it be a car or a train. And that's just due to all the losses involved in that production process. And when you look at battery technology, it's closer to the 80 to 90% range, depending on which technologies are used. But basically using hydrogen as an energy storage medium at this stage of development means you're wasting a lot of energy. And so that's something you need to remember. It's also involved in a lot of greenhouse ozone layer type destruction, because hydrogen is, studies are showing, just as destructive, actually more destructive than CO2 to warming. So just keep in mind, I'm no expert, but keep on top of the studies and do not commit yourself so early to an unproven technology. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. I appreciate your comments. All right. And I believe April still have her hands up, but it's probably from before. Is any other emails or comments from the public? Candice?
We do not have any, no.
Perfect. With that being said, I'll close public comments and bring it to the board for consent item action. We recommend approval of items in the consent items. Do I have a motion?
Move consent, Hudson.
Second.
All righty. So it was, I missed who
Second stepper.
and who made the motion?
Hudson.
All right. We have a first and a second. Hi, David. Roll call, please.
Akinjo. Akinjo.
Yes, ma'am. Does the consent item include last meeting? I'm not sure. It does?
Yes, it includes the minutes, the treasurer's report, and the resolution to maintain
2022.
Okay, so I was not here for the last meeting, so.
Doesn't matter.
Okay, are we approve minus the last meeting? I was not here, so.
Could we clarify that? Because you are subject to all the things that are in those minutes and responsible for reading them. And you don't need to be absent to be present to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
That is
Up to you. Totally up to you, but you do not have to be here to approve the minutes.
Okay, yeah, I'm still going to abstain from the last meeting.
you. Cantu,
Yes.
Hubbard, did we get Hubbard? Hernandez,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
did we get Kick? No. King Tingle,
Yes.
McPartland,
Yes.
Neram,
Yes.
Rickman,
Yes.
Stepper,
Yes.
Vargas,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes, with the exception of the minutes, same situation as
do you abstain?
Director Akinjo, abstaining on minutes.
It'll be the whole item.
Okay.
Zuba,
Yes.
okay. Thank you, motion passes.
All right. Thank you. So today we will have item 5, presentation of a Link 21 program. This is an informational item. And I'm looking forward to hearing what this presentation will let us learn about this project.
We have
And
two-
who will
we
be
have
the
two-
one presenting?
We have 2 presentees. I'm moving them over to panelists right now.
Can I get started?
You sure can.
All right. We have a presentation to share with you, and I'll share my screen in a minute, but I just wanted to take a minute to introduce myself. I'm Sadie Graham, and I am the director for the Link 21 program, and I work for Bart. And today I have with me Camille Sau, who is the manager on behalf of Capital Corridor. And we're happy to be here today. Thank you for inviting us. And I did want to take the opportunity to congratulate you for entering into the project development phase of the capital investment program. So that's great to hear. So now I'm going to share my screen and hand it off to Camille to get started.
Thank you all for having us today. As Sadie mentioned, I am Camille Sau. I am the program lead for Link 21 for Capital Corridor. And I'm going to do the first half of the presentation, if you don't mind advancing to the next slide. So first off, Link 21 is named Link 21 because we are doing an analysis of how our program can benefit the 21 county mega region. We are the 5th largest mega regional economy in the country, 16th in the world. And as you all know, our passenger rail system can be inconvenient. It can be disconnected. It can have limited routes and service. So just like you, we're interested in a future with better passenger rail service where people can take it for all kinds of trips and different days of the week, different times of the day. The Bay Area currently has a single passenger rail crossing between Oakland and San Francisco, and that's the Bart Trans-Bay Tube. We are facing traffic congestion again in that corridor, as well as many others post-COVID. We still have a jobs and affordable housing imbalance, and we're still dealing with climate change and health damaging air pollution. So there is a need to do something about this in our mega region. Next, please. We know that Northern California travel is going to continue to increase. We've done some projections that by 2040, we're going to have 28 million daily motorized trips within the Bay Area, which is a 26% increase. And then also between what we refer to as the Halo counties, the non-Bay Area counties in the Northern California mega region, we will see a 64% increase between those counties and the Bay Area. So travel demand continues.
Camille, did I'm seeing that right? And that, if you go, is that 133,000 vehicles leaving San Joaquin County to the Bay Area?
They're motorized trips. So if you assume one person per car, I mean, sometimes there's carpooling, right? But if it was one person per car, it would be that many cars.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Next, please. So a little bit more about Link 21. While the proposed rail crossing between Oakland and San Francisco is the key project of our program, this is a program. So we're looking at other network improvements for regional rail, which is standard gauge rail, which is what Capital Corridor operates on. We're looking for network improvements to regional rail as well as BART, looking at ways to improve travel time, frequency, service hours, and to reach some new markets. It is not an extension plan across the 21 county mega region, but we are looking at improvements to the existing one. As I mentioned, it includes the new passenger rail crossing. We'd like to have BART technology as well as standard gauge rail crossing the bay, and we're looking at how we might do that. And also, I think what's really important to note is the synergies that we see that can occur between your project, our project, other projects in the mega region, again, to really help realize this vision of a better passenger rail network. And one thing that we try to convey to people is just imagine if you could go to any rail station, whichever rail station is closest to you, and just knowing that you could get somewhere, anywhere in the mega region that also has a rail station, and then that would be an easy trip, and that it wouldn't take tremendously long, and that it would be, convenient. I think that would reduce just the perceived distance of how far things are in our mega region, and it would encourage people to use rail rather than just driving. Next, please. So a little bit more about what Link 21 could mean for the Tri-Valley area and for Valley Link. With improvements to the BART system, including this additional capacity offered by the Trans-Bay Corridor, we feel that folks using the Valley Link system, they would experience less crowding when they transfer to a BART train, though those BART trains would be less crowded. We would like to see BART trains running more frequently so that those transfers are easier. And another thing that we're exploring is, could BART run for extended hours? A lot of people have been interested in seeing BART run more hours of the nighttime and early in the morning for folks that are getting to jobs that are not your traditional 9-to-5 jobs, or perhaps you're going to the airport and you need to catch a really early flight. There's many reasons why people are interested in extended hours. Think about the possibility of, ACE as a regional rail system. If we were able to have ACE use the new rail crossing, it sort of acts like an express service, if you will, right? Because it doesn't stop as often. And so imagine if ACE could then cross the bay and get over to San Francisco, or even down to San Francisco Airport. These are all possibilities that we're exploring, but we're just trying to imagine, how this could be different for people than what they experience today. Now I'm going to hand it over to Sadie, who's going to talk about the goals and objectives of our program.
Thanks, Camille. And so just to take a step back, this is a project that BART and Capital Corridor are advancing together with partnership from the state, and really trying to build off of the state rail plan. And so recently, our boards have adopted our goals and objectives and our vision statement. And here you'll see the goals and objectives that we've defined for the project. And you can see that transform the passenger experience is on the left and a little bit larger. And that's because fundamentally, if we don't achieve this goal and these objectives of providing better service, improve reliability and performance, and ultimately building up ridership and mode share, we can't then achieve, without that, achieving that goal, we can't achieve the goals on the right, which are really, to promote and enhance equity and livability, support economic opportunity and global competitiveness, and advance environmental stewardship and protection. And so these goals and objectives are really the underpinning to metrics by which we are going to be using to evaluate the program as we develop, to make sure that it's in alignment with these goals and objectives. And just to talk a little bit more, since its inception, equity has really been at the core of this program. And I think that is because we can all acknowledge that many marginalized communities have been harmed by past transportation and other infrastructure projects and may not have benefited equally from those projects. And so we are really committed to making Link 21 a program that serves communities by promoting equity throughout all aspects of the program. And so that means that we're building equity early into our work. And this is sort of our mantra here, is that we're reflecting, which means that we're learning from the past by both, understanding the ways past infrastructure projects have impacted communities. We are contextualizing, which means that we're, working directly, trying to hear from those communities to better understand what their transit needs are, and then ultimately co-create.
Sadie, can I stop you here for a moment? As you speak, and I'm gonna lose my question, so I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you tell me, and I'm glad that your equity is something that's the core of your program. In relationships to that, how can you explain how the program is governed? Who forms the board of this Link 21?
Okay, do you want me to answer that question now or just hold it till the end?
How much longer you have?
I have 3 more slides.
All right, I can go back. I'll make my notes.
Okay, I've got it right here. And then co-creating is really partnering with those communities that I'm talking about so that we can really try to develop more equitable solutions that we can deliver with a project. And so, as Camille said, we really do see this new Transbay Rail crossing as having the opportunity to unlock the pretty impressive rail potential that our mega region has. And this is by, adding some critical pieces of infrastructure, which really then will help us optimize service improvements with other agencies and other projects throughout the Bay. And so, I'm thinking particularly of the Caltrain Downtown Rail Extension, the Bart to San Jose project, your project, Capital Corridor's South Bay Connect project, and even high-speed rail. And really, I think on that note, these service aspirations are really important to how that regional network functions. And so this is not only thinking of the infrastructure that we're talking about, but like how that translates into what the community, what their experience is. So faster, is it more reliable? As Camille said, extended service, more frequent service, is it convenient in going to the right destinations? Are we adding capacity, especially where places in areas that we've seen overcrowding or capacity in the past? And are we making it accessible for underserved neighborhoods? Resilient, in both meaning and able to respond to service disruptions, but I think also resiliency as it relates to both climate change and reliability within the system. And then really, how can we contribute to reducing the region's greenhouse gas emissions? And so a few things I just wanted to note about how the program is set up. And then, I think this does relate to Ms. Vargas's question, is right now the project is a partnership that is being led by Bart and CCJPA. So Bart is advancing this project largely with RR funds from the 2016 bond measure. There was a set aside to look at this. And then we also receive additional support from the state through Capital Corridor. And so Capital Corridor is essentially representing, standard gauge rail in the project. But we do have partnerships that we collaborate and as stakeholders with other rail operators and agencies within the region. So one thing that we are doing is we're doing a business case approach, which really is a way of, we don't have an alignment or a project defined yet. We've spent time to figure out how it is that we are going to do that, to make those decisions. And the intent is to really have it be data-driven, those metrics back to the goals and objectives that I was talking about, so that it's very transparent and can be used to, gain public and stakeholder support. We're also implementing a stage gate process, which is really just a project management tool. It's essentially a risk-based management that allows us, when we go to our leadership, which right now is the Bart and CCJPA boards, to make decisions at certain points throughout the project, by which we can lock in decisions and get direction and make sure that we still have, as we're advancing the project, are meeting our goals and objectives and have the support of the leadership. And then again, this commitment to equity. And so finally, I think this is talking to the choir here, but you all know that, investment into transit, it really does have significant economic returns. There's both the near-term job creation, the long-term economic development that we have by influencing, land use and jobs and housing locations. Ultimately, I think, there's a return on investment of that's a calculation based on APTA that says, for every $1 that you invest into rail, it will return five back. And so, and this also, this economic, one of the goals when it comes to equity is making sure that this economic opportunities is really also accessible to everyone throughout the region. And so with that, I'll stop and I can go right into your question if you'd like, or we can.
Yeah, let me, as you were speaking, because I wasn't familiar, I so appreciate you taking the time, you and Camille, to just present, enjoy the presentation. Yes, if you can tell me who is the government body of this project and how's the membership formed?
Yeah, right now the decision-making authority for within that stage gate is Bart and CCJPA's board of directors.
For those that don't know what CC.
Oh, I'm sorry, Capital Corridor. Excuse me. Yeah.
Just want to make sure that the public.
No, I'm sorry. This world is full of way too many acronyms, especially within our industry. So
no worries. And what is the purpose of seeking information? I saw on your website that you've been doing pop-up meetings and the area, the Valley Lingual Serve. What is it that you guys are looking for from the public?
Really, at this point, it's been, largely educational in terms of informing people as to what the project is. We have had a few rounds of overall public engagement, including the pop-ups, where we have been asking people to help us validate the goals and objectives I presented to you. And those have been revised, throughout the beginning of this project based on the input that we've received from them. And then other questions such as, where do you want to go? What kind of service do you want to see? What are your sort of needs that you have that could be met by this program?
I have a couple more questions, but I do want to give it to, I see several board members and I can come back later. If Vice Chair Melissa Hernandez, would you like to go first?
Sure, great. Thank you, Chair. I want to go back to one of, you mentioned something about ACE connecting to San Francisco. So how does that actually happen?
Well, like I said, we're still in the planning stages, so we haven't figured out the details, but just the effort to put standard gauge build a standard gauge rail crossing, which is what ACE runs on, and that's what Capital Corridor runs on, and Caltrain. We still have yet to work with our partners and see, well, what kind of actual projects or improvements would need to be made in order to make that connection. So it's just a high level aspiration of what a crossing that is a regional rail crossing could offer to the mega region.
Okay, and so when was Link 21 created?
In late 2019.
Okay, the reason why I ask is because have you heard of an authority called the Valley Link? Because we were created before this particular Link 21, and in my, how I would see and how cities run and how counties run is you have communication with other jurisdictions. So how is the local jurisdiction being represented? That's, I guess, one of my questions that I want to ask you.
Sure. The local
throughout this process.
Local jurisdictions, including MPOs, and the county and in cities are part of our stakeholders for coordination. As I mentioned, so I think, one of the, I didn't mention this, but, we are in the planning stages right now. So right now we've set up the process by which we're going to be doing this. We've set up our models and such. So while Camille gave an example of an improvement that could be delivered by this project, we haven't set any lines or stations on the map. And I would note that our project will deliver a crossing of the bay internally, and it is not meant to be an expansion project beyond that, but more of an connection project for the other rail projects that exist in the region.
So then I'm a representative, obviously, for the Tri-Valley. So being from the Tri-Valley, is Bart planning on pulling up the Bart track in the Tri-Valley area?
No.
I just see that there's a lot of overlap. That's why I'm asking.
I understand. I mean, I think there's, it's intended to be a project that builds off of other projects such as yours. So when we're doing our future modeling and in our analysis of the project, the assumption that we're building upon is that Valley Link will be delivered. And as we evaluate our project, it will be with that understanding to make sure that when we're evaluating the benefits that the project can give, it is within the understanding of this future, the future delivery of all of the other projects that are underway, such as what I mentioned before.
And I know that you've mentioned that this is the preliminary stage, but have the boards have any authority to oversee rail planning through the 21 county areas?
So we're not trying to plan for other areas outside of our jurisdiction. We're trying to accept their planning into our baseline for future modeling so that the projects that we would deliver within the inner core, essentially where the project, which would be crossing between the East Bay and San Francisco, would build off of the future projects that other rail agencies are delivered under their purview.
Okay, so off of other tracks, because I've kind of heard through the grapevine that the BART tracks would be getting pulled up.
No, I mean, we haven't made any decisions to that extent. So,
well, because you talk about economic returns and all the benefits that it actually would contribute to not only our taxpayers and so on, but I'm not sure if there's a lot of benefits when you're taking up tracks or, replicating a project. So that's why I'm just wondering, I really want our residents to be aware of being very transparent, because how I see you're utilizing taxpayers' money to figure out a project you haven't even figured out.
Yeah,
that Valley Link has been around for a little bit longer than you have.
So I agree with you. I think that our business case framework is really meant to set up a very transparent method. We don't have that information on sort of the economic, the cost benefit analysis of the projects. We will have that and we'll be happy to share it. And again, I would like to just, while I recognize that there's competition for funding for projects in the region, this is not intended to be a duplication of any efforts or, stealing of anyone else's ridership or anything. This is meant to be something that's looking at the future that other rail agencies and other MPOs are helping to deliver and building off of that for the future. So if I misspoke in any way, I apologize.
So just for my final question, because I know the rest of the board has some questions of their own. So is the scope within the enabling legislative of BART and Capital Corridor? I mean.
Yeah, the scope of work that we're doing is within BART's legislative authority.
All right, thank you.
Oh, Veronica, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
It's a great speech, Veronica.
I know, I'm so good. I said, thank you, Vice Chair. We'll come back if you have more questions after the public gets a chance to make comments. But I want to, there are a couple hands raising from the supervisor. David Hudson. David, you go next, and then Paula Quincho.
Yeah, this is pretty much information only from what I'm gathering, Sadie. But so I think I would start with some statements. If my memory serves me correct, this actually is like another iteration of what a group called CoLab was trying to do back in the 80s. I mean, they've been trying to tie these things together. And if I'm wrong about it or not, I think Valley Link can do better than something. We could do it faster than what they've been trying to do. It's been an off and on project from Auburn to get under the bay and whatever. These things always seem to find a way to stall. What has me concerned somewhat is every time, and it just seems to be like, just say these words and you're in. We have now turned transportation into a battle between climate change and equity. And when you're telling me equity, and I'm in the Bay Area and looking at our numbers, and I'm talking to people in San Joaquin County where I was born and raised, I know what our AB 617 areas are, and that's what you need to pretty much qualify for this kind of funding: West Oakland, East Oakland, and North Richmond. I don't know if anybody on this board has what I would call the certified AB 617 area. That kind of leaves us out in the cold. And when we come back with that kind of information, we're going to have to know where we stand, is where I'm going with this. In 2018 and since then, and maybe even a little bit before, fought like crazy with everybody to get money for the Peninsula Corridor. You electrify the Peninsula Corridor. It's like an extension of BART. If we electrify it, you 11 stations in the time it takes to do 8. Yet all of us here, I believe, were online when we went to the MPO and MTC. All of a sudden forgot how to spell Valley Link, and the Peninsula starts sucking up the numbers. So just know that when you talk to this group, we are weary. I'll look for facial expression, leery of where the funds are going when it's not spelled out. And probably the basis for that, if nothing else, to me, was the methodology we used on RENA. I mean, we're talking about a train, and you go BART to San Jose or train to San Jose, and San Jose dropped, or Santa Clara County drops 52,000 homes off their RENA methodology. That kind of hit home with everybody in Contra. They'll be watching this. Why are we building the same thing we did to San Francisco 40, 50, 60 years ago? And now we're doing it to San Jose, and is the money worth it? I'm really concerned, and I'm not only with the board, and is Kevin on there? I keep looking around for name. There he is. And all of us, we need to start looking at some of this transportation legislation. Has anybody discussed what we're seeing from some of the things from Friedman, where they're talking about the state actually running transportation dollars, even on a measure, Sadie, if we go through it, through CARB, where the California Air Resource Board can say, is this more climate change than that? And that maybe that's why that AB 617 or disadvantaged community information kind of got me thinking maybe I will say something after my 5th cup of coffee. But there's a lot of things that I think we're going to be looking at as this goes forward. And unquestionably, Valley Link should be part of this. I get it where the Capitol Court, I get it why, and I have a different stance on it than you heard from Melissa. They've been doing this for they've been trying for a long time. But if you start talking about $100 billion or something, and we aren't in there for total funding, I think you're going to see some pushback. And that's my points for information. And please look up, what is Freedman Assembly? It's AB 2438, because that's another thing that's got me concerned. She just is writing some stuff like, anyway, enough. Mine is not questions, it's more information, and I'll wait to hear the next time we hear from you.
I appreciate your input. Thanks. I really do.
All right, Paul, Director Akincha.
Thank
You're
you,
on,
Ms. Graham.
Veronica, Paul. Okay.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you so much. This is my first time of hearing about 21st and all these things. Nice idea. But without the benefits that you said was, I don't know whether it was intentional, it was never done yet, it's going to be hard for you to pull people off the road into transportation or public transportation. Even with the current rate of gasoline, it has not discouraged people from driving, and the congestion still remains the same. So if you are not presenting the cost-benefit analysis along with what you want us to consider, either now or in the future, it's going to be tough to assimilate, because when you link all these individual regions together or within the district of Bart jurisdiction together, I'm sure you're going to use Clipper card and all those things. The cost to the people has to be of something that it is within their easy reach to consider, so that the transportation or the link will be easy to assimilate into the system. That's what I'm saying. But I can wait for the cost analysis and benefits, unless you want to speak or shed light whether it was actually done. What is the cost of moving a car from the road, either a single person passenger car or a park and ride or whatever it is called, and you move them onto the rail system? What is the cost? And how does that help all these programs that we have that you want to link up with? That's all I have. Thank you.
I'll just say I agree with you in terms of needing to be able to articulate the cost benefits, and those are things that I can't share with you today because we don't have it yet, as we're just sort of still in the planning stages, but certainly agree that it's important, and we'll be happy to come back and share when we have them. And I did want to just clarify one thing, is that Bart is not trying to take over a jurisdiction of regional rail in any way. So I just wanted to make sure that I was clear about that.
I'm glad that you clarified that. It feels that way a little bit. And I'm gonna, especially when, as you said before, equity is the core of your program, but yet I don't believe I have, and maybe I missed it. Do you had any meetings in the city of Tracy or in Mountain House?
Camille, do you want to respond?
We have not had any public meetings there, but we are working with community-based organizations around the mega region, and they've been helping us to identify members of marginalized communities, where we then form groups of 15 to 20 people. We've had 2 rounds of those co-creation workshops, and we're going to have a 3rd. So these are smaller scale meetings, but they're in different parts of the mega region. And we talk to our partner agencies. We don't just go out and do general public outreach. We talk to our partner agencies and we ask them, their thoughts on, hey, what do you think about reaching out to folks in different communities? And some people say, oh, we've got another program going on right now. It would really confuse them if you were to go out and talk about Link 21. They wouldn't know the difference between, it would confuse them. They wouldn't understand the difference between what you're doing and what we're doing. And so we say, okay, well, let us know. We'll come back to you and check in again and ask if there's a better time, or if you want us to present to a different group, then we will. So sometimes we present to rail committees, or sometimes, we go to transportation commission. So we use the advice of our partner agencies.
So who's your partner agency? Who you refer to?
The MPOs in the mega region, the CMAs, the rail operators.
There you guys go. I went with all the acronyms. It will be MPOs.
The metropolitan planning organizations like MTC, SACOG.
So specifically in the San Joaquin Valley, can you tell me who is your partner agency, please?
Yeah, it's the San Joaquin COG and StanCOG.
Perfect. All righty. I will at this time open this to the public. I see we have some public comments, and Vaughn, you are first in the list, and then we'll follow with Adrian.
I'm assuming you can hear me. I see this as essentially as job security for planners, because the reality of the Bay Area over the last 50, 60 years, this would never get done. None of these in the listed projects or suggested projects are ever going to get done. Another crossing of the to San Francisco. San Francisco will be underwater before you ever get that even paid for, let alone built. And I'm detecting in the questioning from the board of directors is their protectionism of their project. Well, you magnify that by all the other different projects in the Bay Area, and you have that same type of consideration for everything. Each group sees their project as the only thing that needs to, or the main thing that needs to get done, and all needs to be included, none of which is going to actually do any good. The Valley Link, 33,000 riders out of 350,000 is less than 10% of the people coming through the 580 corridor. That was determined from Bart to Livermore. It still hasn't changed in the numbers you're having. The 56,000 for Bart to San Jose at $1 billion a mile is less than 10% of the projected 24 trips from Alameda County into Santa Clara County. Another crossing into San Francisco is not going to double the BART ridership. It's not going to double the capacity. Whereas a modern rail with higher speed rail and double deck trains would essentially triple the capacity of going into San Francisco. But San Francisco is not the main driving economy of the Bay Area anymore. Santa Clara is. It's much bigger. It has many more companies and much more investment and stuff like that. The biggest problem in the Bay Area, and what your planning thing is going to run into, is planning in the Bay Area, and for most of the counties and most of the state, is county by county. And the counties are independent, separate little kingdoms that they've set up. And they're not open to having transportation that goes right through their county. You can look at Alameda, getting to San Francisco, getting to San Jose. That's where most of the travelers are going. And how you're going to get across that county by county warfare with each other is just impossible. It took 50 years for them to get to this far with the extension of Caltrain. It was talked about back in the 80s. And look, it's taken 30 years to get BART to San Jose. You know, the people that were voted for it are probably retired by the time the project ever hits the dirt. You need to find one little project that benefits the most people and get something done and prove you can get something done, and that it really comes out the way the projections that say. Otherwise, this is just another project in the mess and everybody fighting over who's going to get their hand in the rice bowl type of thing. It's nonsense. It's not transportation.
Thank you, Vaughn. I appreciate your comment. It's nice to hear you. Adrian, you have the phone in your branch.
Yes, thank you. I had heard some of these presentations before, so the Link 21 project has been making the rounds. But the comment that I wanted to pick up on was that the presenter mentioned that one of the goals was to be able to go from any train station in the Bay Area to any other station easily and seamlessly. I don't know if those are her exact words, but that was the gist of it. And to that end, we have legislation that I think David Chu started and Josh Becker has now taken over, but to more seamlessly integrate, at least from a user's perspective, Bay Area transit, so that there is a seamlessness instead of having city and county boundaries and agency boundaries. From a user's perspective,
excuse me, Chair, I hate to interrupt, but this has got to be the slowest clock I've ever seen in my life.
My apologies. I have it on the other one. Go ahead. I'll let you know.
Vanessa, my name is.
All right. May I continue my comment, please?
Yes, please. Sorry, Bart.
Yeah, sorry. I wasn't even looking at the clock, so I should have said something, but I wasn't looking at it. Yeah, so from a user perspective, and so just to compare, Germany has been doing this for 50 years, and any of you who have traveled there know very well, it's all very nicely integrated from a user's perspective. You can, right now, Germany, to help with the high fuel costs and everything, the German government has created a nationwide ticket that costs €9 per month for anyone to ride any transit all over the nation. Okay, Germany is almost the size of California and runs over 24,000 passenger trains per day. Compared to us, we have 170 in California that Amtrak runs. So we are so far behind, it's not even funny. And the seamlessness and this is absolutely essential, and getting away from this sort of different siloed fiefdoms where people, and I can hear it, you're nervous about your money, and this project is going to take your funds, and this other project over there might get more than it deserves. We absolutely need to get on the ball and get into a seamless mindset and start integrating everything. And I don't know what the answer is, but we all need to be aware of it. We're horribly far behind, and in Germany, I mean, we have stations in Germany with 3,000 trains per day. Sorry, that's Zurich, Switzerland. And this integrated concept is absolutely something we need to move towards. So we need more cooperation between agencies. And I can hear your nervousness. I understand it. And this exemplifies a problem because it doesn't benefit users. It's more about you guys and your turf. And I understand it. If I put my hat on and pretend I'm one of you, I'd probably be talking the same way. But think about it from a user or system perspective, and we've got trouble. So thanks.
All righty. Thank you so much. And I see no other comments from the public. I'm going to check one more time. Nope, I don't. So I will close public comment and bring it back to the board. And I want to apologize to Bob Warner. I missed you, sir. So you have the floor.
Okay, well, thank you. I just want to make sure I understood, all of the comments. And I'll just mention, I have traveled extensively around the world, and integrated systems do work well. So no question. And I do believe the lack of the central planning is our key problem. I also think, though, we have to understand that, the culture we have here is the car culture. So when people talk about, it's only a small fraction of the total cars, what I'm hearing there is, forget it, let's just all drive until we clog the freeways even more. And so that doesn't work. So my own personal experience is good rail systems are really beneficial. So the other thing I wanted to say is, I looked, from the presentation we just heard, the point is it's a push to get the second Trans-Bay crossing. And the idea is that can be justified if we can see all the passengers coming from all the different places, and that then would say, in order to make everything convenient, we need a second Transbay crossing. So I think that's what I heard. And that the external coordinations that's required is to understand what that volume of traffic, passenger traffic is that would justify that. And I think it's that simple. So I don't think this is too complicated or people trying to take a global control of things. But I do understand that we want to get the Valley Link done. And I would just end with, get Valley Link done. It's going to be supplying the passengers that would connect to Bart, that would in principle maybe want to get across the tube, the bay in a second tube.
Thank you, Director Warner. And before I pass it to our executive director, I want to one last comment, which to me it just it seems a little premature, the outreach and the coordination with other partner agencies when we're trying to achieve the connectivity by AB 548. That bill puts us with the authority not only to connect the Bay Area, to connect with ACE, that connects also with the high-speed rail. So I see a redundant study or planning of something that is already way underway. And again, I'm not territorial. This is a global thing. I have traveled around the world, grew up utilizing public transportation, and I love it. So for me, it's just like a little bit of disconnect about what is happening between this program and that what reality is that we're trying to achieve. But I will recommend that this group, Link 21 and Valley Link staff, work together and stay connected to make sure that we can collaborate and share information. We'd love to see what you guys have learned from your outreach, and it's always room for improvement. So I look forward to hear more about that later. And with that, I will pass it to Kevin, and thank you, ladies, for your time today. Kevin, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. And I wasn't sure if Director Hudson had another question. Your hand. Okay.
I just got to pontificate. Go ahead.
So first, I'd like to thank Link 21 for making our presentation today. And I think some of the information sometimes these presentations are sometimes challenging in their technical capacity. I myself sometimes have challenges trying to convey terminology and messaging around projects, because for those of us that are in the weeds on it, trying to express the overall generalities of a project sometimes become a little challenging. So I would just go back to reassure the board that what is entailed by standard gauge railroad. So Bart operates on a proprietary gauge. It's different than any other type of rail. So that's different than what ACE runs on. It's different than what Capital Corridor runs on. It's different what Valley Link will run on. It's different than what the San Joaquins run on. So standard gauge implies a regular type of rail. So if there's rail even today, let's say a Transbay tube built today with standard gauge rail connecting all the way to Lathrop, it does not, I think there was a comment that ACE would run to San Francisco. I think, some of that could have caused some confusion. At Valley Link, through its enabling legislation, and it's not any nervousness at all. It's a fact. It's a legislative approval, and that we connect from Dublin, Pleasanton, Bart to Lathrop, and with Mountain House being the initial operating segment. So we cover that part of the corridor that would connect to ACE, which is connecting to Sacramento and Merced to high-speed rail, and ACE connects going to San Jose. ACE runs on a host railroad, San Joaquin's run on a host railroad, meaning UPRR, BNSF railroads, and so does Capital Corridor. And so my Valley Link potentially, when we go from Mountain House to Lathrop, depending on what SJCOG and Caltrans do with the I-205 managed lanes environmental alternative. So that being said, what Link 21 right now is doing in the planning process is simply gathering all the information, a collection of all these different rail projects to show and demonstrate how they would work from a network integration perspective and be a continuous railroad. Because when the state or whomever is looking at this, I think I heard that there are state funds on this for Capital Corridor to help with the study. They want to see how the whole network works. And as long as we, Valley Link, are part of the network that connect, whether it be a Dublin, Pleasanton, Bart, or if that was to ever change into a standard gauge railroad all the way on a new Transbay tube to San Francisco, theoretically, you could run from Lathrop all the way to San Francisco, if that was the case. But this is the planning process. As Director Hudson mentioned, these things take many years. And there's a lot of good questions, but I just wanted to bring it back that during this planning process, Link 21 needs to look at the whole network and include us as a piece of the pie in the puzzle that seamlessly integrates the rail network for passenger rail. And that's kind of my spiel on it.
And I can just say that I really, sorry, excuse me, I appreciate your clarification. I think that helps. And, that is our intent, is to build you into our, modeling of the network and then evaluate projects based upon that assumed future. Sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. Director Stepper, you have the floor.
Sorry, thank you. I understood the beginning when we were talking about Germany and the networking and how much it needs to work together when you have transit to make it much more efficient. And I believe that Werner did a great job summarizing what this was about, that it seems to be about. If we're going to have a choke point crossing between Oakland and San Francisco, crossing the bay, that we need to address that in some way. Now, I didn't hear it said that way. That's the only thing I can interpret what I considered a pretty roundabout presentation of mission goals, which are the goals of every transit system, to be frequent, et cetera, and to be more seamless. So I think that you should be much more direct in what you're trying to achieve. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Stepper. I want to echo that sentiment. I think Director Stepper and our board members are, right on point. If that was the intent to include us as part of your study, I wish you would have been here in 2019, 2020, 2021 and collaborating. So it just seems like a little bit of missed opportunity to collaborate with each other. But you're here now today, so we're looking to work together and move forward. So we're looking forward to seeing an updated report, maybe where we can see and Valley Link will spell out into your program. With that said, thank you, ladies, again for your presentation and your time.
Thank you.
Oh, wait a minute.
You forget me again?
I'm sorry. I did not see you there. Of course not. Hudson.
Yeah, you're in luck, because Kevin said just about everything I was going to say, but there's a couple things to keep in mind. One, the speakers think we're protecting our fiefdom. That's not it. We're projecting the value that we see. This Valley Link is important not only to the Central Valley and the growth that is going out there, it's to the entire Bay Area. The problem I have, and why it sounds more like I'm fighting, Sadie, if my voice gets a little higher when I get into it, is the problem that we have projected, we being the COG, or the Council of Governments in the Bay Area, that 2/3 of the jobs between 2015 and 2050 were going to be on the peninsula, Santa Clara, San Mateo, San Francisco. And initially 2/3 of the jobs were going to be there. So theoretically, you aren't going to need this train as much. And then all of a sudden the numbers changed. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden River Island became Santa Clara South or East or whatever. And it's not going to stop. So when people talk about this, that we're protecting, it isn't. We're looking to the future. We see that this thing becomes more and more popular, and we have to fight for funding, because you showed a 5-to-1 match. I know at Contra Costa Transportation Authority, Karen was there even before me, we've had a 3-to-1 match for decades. And that's the only way you're going to get something complete with federal and state money. We just got burned by MTC when they politely left us off the, what I call the #1 list, but we got some great rhetoric. We were told a lot of things, but this group's getting educated real fast. We know we've got something that should work and be paid for now. We should be at the top of the list. Instead, I see Diridon and the Peninsula Corridor just sucking up money. Now, if we could get something to San Jose, oddly enough, immediately, that doesn't need to have that tunnel under the bay initially. I don't think that's going to be your answer, Sadie, and I'm not trying to tell you that, but Bart to San Jose is not dependent upon it going under the bay. But there's going to be a lot more. And the idea that growth is going to stop in the Central Valley, I don't see it anytime soon. And I was born and raised there. I mean, it just keeps on going. And so if we're going to do it, Valley Link is ahead of Capital Corridor. We can do it faster with the project that's in front of you. And that's what we're going to keep stressing. So when you come back, you give us information and we're going to tell you politely, we can do it better and faster. And Kevin's laughing, but Kevin, we can do it better and faster and with hydrogen.
Oh no, he's agreeing with you. He's agreeing with you. He's with you, my friend. We know that.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. I think you can do it better because we have different missions. So
I forgot one thing, Veronica, and I keep bringing it up in meetings, and Sadie, I want you to know it too. Pete Buttigieg made it very clear to me that his priority is trains into airports. That's very important to him. Valley Link not only hooks you up to Oakland, San Jose, San Francisco, but the Metropolitan Airport at Stockton had United Airlines come back in. I don't know if they're there now, but my wife worked for them for 50 years. So I mean, I was on one of her flights, which she had a layover there. So I know that it's not out of the realm that if we can get these things going, that their supervisors, and one's there, he can speak for himself, would not be opposed to pushing to get United Airlines into Denver. They even brought it up at their opening. So doing a reverse commute is extremely important when you start figuring out who should be getting this money. I think I've talked enough at this meeting.
No. All right. Sadie, again, good trooper. Thank you so much.
I imagine I'll be back if you want me. So thank you for the time.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Of course. Take care. Bye-bye. All right. All right. We're moving along to item number 6, which is the approval of the fiscal year 2023 budget. This is an action item. Kevin, who's going to be? Is Kevin or Will going to be doing it?
I'll take it, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you.
So last month, staff brought to the board the draft fiscal year 2023 budget and took some comments on some suggestions. So it largely to increase travel for meetings. And we found a way to incorporate additional travel time within the budget that we brought forward last month without increasing it. So the budget includes the revenues, what MTC is allocated, the expenses for our staff and general engineering consultant, contractors, other consultants, AECOM, and financial advisory services, insurance, financial audits, legal and legal supplemental, line of credits, and a number of other things that we need to do to operate. And what's presented before the board's consideration to adopt today is the final budget for fiscal year 2023, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Kevin. So let's see. Director Hudson, you have your hand up.
Well, I didn't. I hadn't taken it down, but I think this is great that you guys are doing this travel. Unfortunately, I missed you at the hydrogen meeting we had in Sacramento yesterday, but we'll let it slide this time. You'll just have to be there next time, Kevin.
Thank you, Director Hudson. I want to say that one of our primary goals that we have is, to enable the legislation to pursue this project's implementation that is fast, cost-effective, and responsive to the goals and objectives of the communities that we will serve. I am happy to see that the budget reflects and is a lean and effective approach to getting this this project needs in place. So good job, you guys. You guys are just continue to just make sure that we are flexible, lean, and mean in a good way. So is any other questions from, and Director Stepper, you have the floor.
Mute.
She's muted, but she has her hand up.
Sorry, thank you. Just turned it off so I wouldn't annoy. I'll be the opposite. I apologize. So I was reading the article yesterday, about us in the newspaper about Scott Haggerty working for us, who of course has so many years, I can't even count, developing this program. So I just wanted to make sure that that's in this budget, and that there were no concerns about Townsend and Red Oak and him vying for that position. And that I just want to make sure there were no questions, because I had brought that up and I understood there shouldn't be any. So I just wanted to make sure it's in the budget here, just to be transparent.
I appreciate it.
Is that in this budget under the government relations?
I can take that, Chair, if you like.
Thank you.
Director Stepper. Yes, Director, it is included in this budget. And just to, answer the rest of your, or address the rest of your comment as far as our procurement process, if anything, the article just confirms that we followed the law and we did a correct procurement. And we are very fortunate to have Red Oak on board as part of that procurement process. And we have included it in the budget for this year.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All righty. Can we open this item for public comment? And I see no hands raised. Is any, Candice, is any comments from the public via email?
I do not have any public comment.
All right, with that, I will close public comment and bring it back to the board for board action.
Zuber will move to approve.
I second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Roll call, please.
Probably take it down.
Yeah, if we can take down the presentation. There we go.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Who was the
And,
first? Sorry.
Subriel?
I'll give it to the other person who brought it up first.
Thank you.
Dan?
Candice, could you take roll call, please?
Akinjo,
Yes, ma'am.
Cantu,
Yes.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Hudson,
Yes.
Kick,
Yes.
King Tingle,
Yes, good budget.
McPartland,
Aye.
Neram,
Yes.
Rickman,
Yes.
Stepper,
Yes.
Vargas,
Yes.
Warner,
Yes.
Wright,
Yes.
Zubo.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you, Candice. And we're moving along to item 7, which I have to show you guys. I'm so happy to be at this point with this presentation, reaching perhaps one of the most significant milestones to date with this national recognition as part of the CIG program, the ZIG. I will be proud to achieve this, major gateway potential for federal funding. So I want to say thank you for all the directors, Senator Padilla, Congressman Harder, Congressman Swalwell, Designet, McGurney, that they have worked behind the scenes to make us, to help us to where we are today. I will be remiss if I don't point out that our vice chair was working hard on this as well, as many of you guys who from San Joaquin County went to the One Voice trip to promote Valley Link. So thank yous all around through all the working group that we continue to be. And with that, I will give the presentation to our staff.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy Director Will Ritter will be taking this item and presenting on it.
Great. Thank you, Chair Vargas, members of the board. Staff is pleased to report, as Chair Vargas mentioned, that as of May 26th, we have received formal approval from the Federal Transit Administration for a request to enter into project development under the Capital Investment Grant Program. And while this is the first step in that process, it is critical to be able to position Dialink for federal funding under what is the largest discretionary program at the federal level for these types of projects at an unprecedented time for funding that has been identified under the most recent federal reauthorization. We note that during the project development process, there are a number of key activities that we are going to be required to complete within a 24-month period. They include the federal environmental process, including the selection of a locally preferred alternative, as well as completion of at least 30% design, as well as a number of other critical kind of activities that are required to allow the Federal Transit Administration to rate the project according to identified criteria that they use in the Capital Investment Grant Program, and then of course to be able to lock in the actual funding request that we would make. So ensuring that we're comfortable with the cost estimate that we would be using, as well as the overall funding plan to be able to identify what our need is, and that we will then be carrying forward into that process. I've included some background on these types of issues of the Capital Investment Grant Program in the board report. However, the intent was really to look to workshop some of those types of activities in more detail through our funding ad hoc committee that we are looking to kick off here at the end of the month or in early July, as we solicit availability from those members of the board that will be participating in that process. I would just say that we're very thankful to the Federal Transit Administration for their timely review and approval of the request to enter project development, as well as their immediate commitment of resources here with a kickoff meeting that we actually hosted yesterday with their staff, not only from the Region 9 California division, but also their staff from headquarters, who will be involved not only in kind of the NEPA process, but also in the overall SIG process, with them, including the project management oversight. Timeliness is, also significant, relative to other activities that are underway. And of course, this includes our initiation of the formal project approval environmental document process with Caltrans for those areas of project that will be occurring on Interstate 580. And then also, as we reported to you previously, with respect to a number of the different funding policy activities underway with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. And as you may recall, we reported that MTC had approved the Dialink project as a part of their priorities for the current transportation reauthorization, the Capital Investment Grant Program, pending approval from FTA for entry into project development. So with this recent approval, we have effectively checked that box and now have kind of formal status as a regional priority for federal funding under the SIG program as a part of MTC's policy. And so with that, again, as Chair Vargas noted, we want to just recognize our sincere appreciation for the leadership and support of our various congressional representatives, from Senator Padilla to Representatives Sonnier, Swalwell, Harder, and McNerney, in their support for the project in this process, and also affirmation of its significance for federal funding as we go through this process. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have this time.
Thank you, Will. I will say that I would like to send a quick note. No fashion. I'm big about thank yous after receiving assistance or help. So I would like from staff to see if we can prepare a letter of gratitude and thankfulness to all the Senator Padilla and the congressmen that participated and congresswoman that participated, and on behalf of the entire board. So I'll leave that to you guys, but it's a sentiment that I will leave every director here really is proud of our leadership. They are not afraid to roll their sleeves and get to work to benefit the community that they're served and represent. So very happy to have good leadership in both sides of this project in the Valley and the Tri-Valley. With that, if we can leave take the presentation and see if we can have anybody from the panel, if they have any questions, any comments from directors. I see no hands raised, so I will move this to public comment.
We have one.
Oh, there you go, Bernice, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. It seems like I couldn't get the hand raised quite. I'm very pleased to add to note that the federal funding, this project has been approved for regional federal funding, a priority. But I guess my question is that when you said regional priority, that means that we're number one, all the funds are going to be there. I just want to know the full scope of the impact of being a priority for federal funding.
So with regard to the Metropolitan Transportation Commission process, they're at this point in time simply identifying those projects that they feel would be priorities for this type of funding at the federal level to be able to guide their types of activities with respect to advocacy, and as we would hope also in respect to how we look at prioritizing these types of projects for state funding. As we recognize that a number of these types of projects, whether it's Dialink or other major mega projects throughout the Bay Area, are going to be relying upon not only federal funding but also state funding in order to be able to support the implementation of the projects. So at this point, there is not any kind of ranking, of the projects within that priority. It's at this point more recognition that those projects that are as part of the federal pipeline, which starts with entry into project development, are those that they are identifying as priorities for funding under this current federal reauthorization, which effectively has a 5-year term in which we are targeted, with our schedule to be able to compete for funding within.
Thank you.
Certainly.
Thank you, Bernice. And let's open for public comments. Let's see if any members of the public have any comments.
You don't have anyone with a hand raised.
All right, we'll bring it back to the board. And there's no emails either, Candace?
No.
And if you don't mind, Candace, can you lower the presentation?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, this was an informational item, so we'll move on to Executive Director's report. Kevin.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And just to convey a message to Director Hudson, I apologize, I couldn't be in Sacramento, but I think I'm at your favorite place, which is the APTA conference in San Diego, specifically regarding rail in the state and across the country. So I apologize, I couldn't be in Sacramento, but I felt like I should at least come to this APTA meeting as soon as possible. So it's great to be here, not just in San Diego, but also to attend the conference and look over the program. And I'll just briefly go over the program because it really just shows me that ValleyLink is 100% in line and checks the boxes with what the state and the rest of the country is trying to do. And just for example, I've been here since Saturday night, and there's a Sunday, but starting Monday, we had a lot of sessions. And the first one was transit-oriented communities, where they discuss the intersection of rail, affordable housing, and places. And this is vital to ValleyLink. The mixed use, such mixed use, livable communities lend themselves to places and appealing people's lifestyles, and those critical connections between public transportation and affordable housing are a heightened priority as transit agencies bolster service to our ridership, provide access to jobs, education, healthcare, and opportunity. Those are the things they're talking about at these conferences. And it's really just interesting to see that it's not just in the state of California, but it is definitely a focus across the US. And to some of the public commenters, yeah, if you go to Europe, we have a lot of consultants from Switzerland and Berlin, Germany, I should say, talking about how to do rail, but it's how that type of rail transitions from European rail to US rail. And those are really the focuses, what we're going to start seeing here in the future of how we transfer that type of transportation system into this country to make it better. And then the second day we talked, was my favorite subject, was really about zero emission rail, what they called vapor no smoke, and talking about how rail is an extremely fuel efficient mode, especially rail transit. And they specify rail transit. Many commuter rail options traditionally have operated with diesel propulsion, as we all know. That's the typical trains, or using electricity, which could be just overhead catenary system. But the cities in the state are taking a serious look at how to reduce their carbon footprint. With commuter and passenger rail transportation authorities are looking to innovate further by using hydrogen or battery electric hybrid propulsion. And so that session was specifically about this. And luckily for Valley Link, the state has procured a number of hydrogen trains, and also San Bernardino County Transportation Authority will have their hydrogen train running by 2024. And then there's another project in Southern California where they'll be evaluating a battery or a hydrogen. That's not exactly settled yet, but we'll get an opportunity that doesn't preclude Valley Link from choosing whatever equipment we best see fit. And if in the event that we do choose to select a hydrogen train, which is the only train that's even available made by Stadler in the country, and it's FRA approved and meets the federal procurement processes. If in the event another technology like the battery became lighter and was able to charge quicker and had a longer range, with this particular train, you can simply swap out the battery pack in the middle of the train, and all of a sudden you have a battery train. So there's nothing when we discuss building a hydrogen plant like we've been doing to create energy, it actually lends itself to both these types of technologies very well. And the state is taking the first step on this, and really we will look to the state because they'll have those trains up and operating along with San Bernardino County Transportation Authority within the next year and a half. So we'll have a good opportunity before we even get to construction or our ordering or place an order for trains to look at how that is working out. And then last but not least was another session on fundamental connections between rail, real estate, and community development. So this is similar to transit-oriented demand, but what implications does it hold for public transportation? Where are work from home trends likely to land? How can rail transit best support healthy downtowns and healthy regions? And so there's been just a lot of great information at this conference, and it's been refreshing to see the state, the whole United States. There's lots of different agencies from Massachusetts to San Diego to San Francisco to us and the state present at this APTA conference. So I just thought I would report on that before turning it over to our Gus Corey to give a legislative update on the state budget.
Before we move to Gus, Kevin, I want to ask you to reach out to the city managers and the development department, planning development, in regards to the transit-oriented needs. Please share what you learn or any materials. I think my city manager for Tracy is listening, but I think he will appreciate any information as we are looking to revamp our specific plans. And I know there are other cities are doing the same. So it will be very valuable to have that data shared with the other communities. And with that, Gus, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Vargas. It's good to see you and board members. Gus Corey, Legislative Advocates. Look forward to the day where we can meet in person at some point, but hope everyone's in good health. So lots going on in Sacramento. I'll be as concise as possible, but just thought I would give you an update as to where we are in the legislative and budgetary process, and then talk just very briefly about our efforts. And so Governor Newsom, in his May 13th issuance of the May revision to the fiscal year 22-23 state budget, identified a staggering $97.5 billion general fund surplus. There's about $49 billion that's available for discretionary spending. This surplus is on the back of a $76 billion surplus last fiscal year for 21-22, and a $53 billion deficit just 2 years ago for the 2021 fiscal year. So it's a $226 billion turnaround as a result. And so we are trying and working with our legislative delegation to try to capitalize on seeing if we can compel some investments towards the Valley Link project. Going back to last year, we noticed that Governor Newsom had a $1 billion earmark for Los Angeles in preparation for the 2028 Olympics. And we worked collaboratively with Chair Vargas, with Director Sheridan on saying, well, hold on a second. I mean, if LA is going to get an earmark, what about trying to increase the pot so that, there's more to go around and that we can realistically try to fund our, project needs. And so we actually pointed out an opportunity to the governor's office. There's some interest money that materializes through various investments for transportation that had no statutory strings on it. It was about $1 billion, and the governor wound up vetoing a bill. It was AB 604. And per our suggestion in the veto language, he actually said that he would dedicate the resources towards the transportation package. And so he doubled the amount of money in this fiscal year for 22-23. It's $2 billion for the transit and intercity rail capital program. This is the main program that we would solicit. It's a competitive grant process to try to help. But given the opportunities that we have, we've been working pretty tirelessly. So Chair Vargas, Vice Chair Hernandez have been helping along with myself and Valley Link staff and making various rounds with state legislators, even beyond our state delegation members. So we've met with the governor's office, Senator Glazer, Senator Wykowski, Senator Eggman, of course, who's been a huge champion of ours, Assemblymember Bauer Kahan, and Assemblymember Villapudua. And they're committed to continuing a conversation. There aren't any earmarks. There's really not a desire at this point to discuss earmarks, but there isn't really a deal on transportation right now because there is not reconciliation on allowing the governor to exhaust the remaining $4.2 billion in appropriation authority for the High-Speed Rail Bond Act. And so several members want something tangible out of this budget deal. And so they've sort of coalesced around Valley Link. And we have actually been working outside of the region. And I do want to also thank Member Wright, because the San Joaquin Valley Policy Council has been adding Valley Link to all of their advocacy efforts. This is the 8 Valley COGs. So you're going from San Joaquin all the way down Kings Kern County that are, in addition to supporting ACE in the San Joaquins, Valley Link has also come up on several occasions, especially with San Joaquin County and Stanislaus County. And what that helped us do is get more legislators on board with the idea of trying to help fund Valley Link. And so there's at least 16 members that weren't even talking about it as much that are now, and they're trying to actively work together to see if they can compel a more deliberate outcome. But I think at the bare minimum, we've increased the amount of funding that's available for us to be competitive in, to try to get the resources to have the 26 miles of track, to go out to Mountain House and compel the Measure BB dollars from being leveraged, and make us more competitive with the federal grant process. And as you've heard, we have a lot of momentum in that arena as well. So it truly has been a team effort. I'm humbled to be a part of it and represent the group in Sacramento and beyond. And Madam Chair, I'll stop right there and see if folks have any questions. And then just real quick, since Mayor Hudson had referenced some legislation, if folks had any questions on those, I'm happy to elaborate and provide any kind of context or summary as well on Assemblymember Friedman's bill. Oh, one last thing. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. And this is because of the good work that you guys have done on the hydrogen facility question with, again, Chair Vargas, the council's work and Tracy on securing the property, getting the CEQA clearance to make a hydrogen facility more viable. Director Sheridan was on a panel in the State Assembly a couple months back before Assemblymember Friedman and the Natural Resources Committee, accentuating, the merits of hydrogen and how we are different from other services because we are truly going to be zero emission running through the Altamont corridor. So I just wanted to make the body aware of that opportunity since he missed the hydrogen meeting yesterday. I'm just going to bat for you, Kevin, on that aspect. So I'll stop right there, Madam Chair, and I'm happy to take any questions.
I could not be more pleased to have you as part of our team. As you can see, every board member here is a hardworking elected official, and I'm proud. I'm honestly love this group. I do want to highlight Dan Wright. Dan, I said it before, I needed those broad shoulders to come in from Stockton, and man, I am so happy that you're part of our team. And Stockton will benefit greatly out of having this connectivity. And I just want to allow you, you usually say very quietly on the corner, but I wanted to give you two minutes to just say thank you and for all the hard work you're doing behind the scenes. It is not going unnoticed.
Thank you, Veronica. So I just want to say it's worked really well on the San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Council because there are multiple things going on. We're trying to fix 99. We got some areas of the 99 in Madera and Tulare that need to be widened. So we in the North Valley can support that. People down south in Kern and Tulare can support our Valley Link project. And we're all getting behind the high-speed rail to make sure that goes through the Central Valley as originally promised. So we're working together as a team. And so I want to give a lot of praise to my fellow members on the Policy Council because Valley Link is a really remote idea to them, but they've gotten behind it and they're very supportive of it. So I just wanted to bring that up. And I agree with Gus. I think it goes a tremendous way to get us additional legislative support, both congressional and legislative here at the state level. So thanks.
Thank you for being a voice for us when we're not there and for the voice of the project and representing your constituents. It's a lot larger than just the area that we serve. So to our staff, man, I could not be more proud to work with such a dynamic, hardworking, and dedicated group of people from Gus to Kevin, to Will, Mary Ann, Candace, and behind the scenes, the engineering team that we don't see, Bill and others. So guys, I sincerely appreciate all the hard work that you guys do day in and day out. Very proud of our team. So with that, Gus, now you have elevated, that bar a little higher. We're going to be expecting that every time. So let's see if we can deliver those grants. I'm looking forward to hopefully securing this. And before the end of the year, we can have the first segment of Operation Secure. And who knows, maybe we start construction of that hydrogen plant before too long. So with that, does anybody else have any comments? Oh, there you are. Go ahead.
Yes, as unaccustomed to speaking as I am, I just want to say, Gus, thank you for doing this. I see Dan Levitz on with the attendees, and he's probably sick of Melissa and I every time the opportunity pops. Wait a minute, Valley Link. It's like a broken record. But part of it is because we support or saw the value in getting the end of the line or that Bakersfield, that southern part of San Joaquin rail going. And it's the same thing we've been pitching here, that, you know, get this Lathrop Mountain House thing going. And because we've been adamant about it before we say Valley Link, and I don't even think they know Melissa's name. I think they think her first, no, that's me. They think my first name is Valley, but the rallying point is there, and it makes a lot of sense when you're doing the connectivity and the time comes to speak up. One of the things you're going to hear in the next thing when I report out at this hydrogen meeting is the word passion. We're not going to sit back and just say, oh yeah, Valley Link. No, whenever the opportunity comes to say it loud, say it proud. And that's what's going on right now, because what we do now is what's going to make the difference in 2026. Thanks, guys.
Well said. All right. With that, we'll conclude this meeting. If there's no other comments from our directors.
I do have one. For any of you that can make it, the Airways Management Association meeting, I thought was virtual, but I guess it's going to be held in San Francisco. And it's amazing how much you will see the tie over between air quality and what we're trying to do in transportation. And the same thing, the report out on the hydrogen meeting, they're calling for passion. This place was packed. It really was an impressive meeting, at least in the morning. Still, it started to grade into a little bit more political, but there's a lot of people pushing to get this done. And you'll be happy to know I gave him Kevin's number.
Good for you. Good for Kevin. All right. Okay. I don't see
Have my hand up.
Yeah, go ahead, Bernice.
Okay, I just want to make a brief comment. First of all, I want to thank Chair Vargas and Vice Chair Hernandez for the energy and all the hard work that they're putting into this project. And not only that, it's a passion that they both have. And I enjoy the succinct reports that they give. And I like to say no official data, but my personal opinion is that this Valley Link project, I think, is responsible for a lot of the real growth in Mountain House. People are looking forward to a stop being at near Mountain House. And I think that has a lot to do with our growth, i.e. property increase and bringing more people into our wonderful valley. So I just give everyone on this team a big cheer, and we're going to keep this project going, and it's going to finish in my lifetime.
For sure. For sure. All right. Well, next meeting is scheduled July 13th. That's my son's birthday. He's going to be 30. So we'll celebrate and have a meeting at the same time. Thank you, guys. I'll see you guys all next month. I will call this meeting to adjourn.
Thank you.
Take care. Bye.